not one session. Not one session, and she brings a lot of care and input. Noemi Disegni, who is our secretary, has held roles in international Jewish organizations, including the World and European Jewish Congress, while serving on several cultural and civic society foundations. Her work focuses on promoting Jewish heritage, interfaith dialogue, and combating anti-Semitism and Shoah denial through national and international advocacy. I just want to make sure that everybody knows who's in this wonderful group. I will move now forward and ask our colleague and dear friend Alfred Lang to step in for the presentation of what we call the Committee of the European Days of Jewish Culture, an operational team that meets regularly. But before that, Alfred, let me just say a few words about you. Alfred is a historian, and he's the chairman of the Board of Research Society in Burgenland, Austria. He's an organizer or national coordinator of the European Days and the European Roots of Jewish Heritage in Austria. And he's very much focused on researching the 20th century history, particularly the Nazi era and history of the Jews. And of course, he has various publications on the history of the Jews in Austria, lecturer and local studies of Jewish history. But that's only the brief note on his activity. He's a wonderful colleague. And Alfred, please.
So thank you, Alina, for the introduction. So I have not do that by myself. That saves time. Hello to everyone. As Alina said, my name is Alfred Lang. I am from Austria and working at the Research Society Burgenland, as you have heard. But today I am here as, on the one hand, as a member of the AEPJ board and as the chair of the EDJC committee, the Committee for the European Days. So what is the European Days Committee? You may know, maybe some of you have heard about that. You may know that the AEPJ Executive Board has established in the recent times some working groups, so-called committees. I am representing the Committee for the European Days of Jewish Culture. It is, as I said, a working group of experts, and this working group organizes more or less the European Days of Jewish Culture on the level of the AEPJ. What does this mean in concrete? What are we doing? As Alina mentioned already, we have regular meetings, mostly online, to discuss the different issues for the organizing of the European Days. For example, the committee proposes every year the annual theme of the European Days of Jewish Culture. This year it is a great word, love, yeah. What we are also doing is to select the posters and so on, and to plan and to organize the national meetings of the organizers and coordinators. As you can see, where participate now. The committee itself advises the board of the AEPJ. That means the board makes the final decision. Our duty is to prepare these decisions, and it is the role of the board of the AEPJ to make the final decision. The board also elects the members of the committee. All of them have in common that they have a lot of experience in organizing the European Days of Jewish Cultures. Not last but not least, Madame Bloch, which surely has the most experience from all of us concerning the European Days. Thank you for that. So I would like to express my thanks to all members of the committee for their work. However, all our ideas and plannings and suggestions and so on wouldn't be enough if we didn't have the support of our office in Barcelona. And it is Alina Marincian, which you know now, which is the manager of the European Days. And Alina really does a great work. Without her, we couldn't, we wouldn't have such a success as we had in the last years. You know, from the last report in 2025, we had I think it was 28 countries who participated on the European Days with events in more than 300 cities. So it's really a huge thing. Thanks to Alina, who is supporting the committee, and thanks to all of us who are working on the ground, so to say, we can be so successful. So I would like to ask the committee members who are present to briefly introduce themselves. The idea behind is that you as a that you as participants can contact your member of the committee if you have questions which are to clarify, or also very important, if you have ideas, suggestions, how to organize, how to make things better, please contact one of the members of the committee, and we will discuss this within the committee. So, who are the members of the committees? You already know Madame Bloch and Alina. So I will start with another important person from the office, from the managing staff, Sonja Vilicic. She is manager of the Cities Embracing Jewish Heritage Project. So Sonja, just a few words about you and about your work.
Hi everyone, great to see everyone. So I'm Sonja Vilicic. I'm running a project called Cities Embracing Jewish Heritage. I'll speak a little bit about it in the next few minutes, but I'm just happy to see that so many people showed up. My aim with the project is very connected to what Noemi was saying, and that is to mobilize municipalities and governmental institutions to take care, promote, and get in touch with Jewish heritage as a way of overcoming anti-Semitism. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Sonja. I will continue with Valerie Pello. She is from Bnei Brit, United Kingdom. Valerie, will you introduce you in a short, brief way?
I'm Valerie Bello from B'nai B'rith UK, and I chair the Jewish Heritage Committee. And our committee has been in existence for over 25 years, really since the inception of the European Days of Jewish Culture and Heritage. We're a very small committee, but we manage to draw together quite a comprehensive program of sites and synagogues and galleries, museums, and Jewish organizations who do put on events throughout the country, which also includes Scotland and Wales. So, and we're working very hard this year and finding it much tougher for reasons which I'm sure are very well known to you than in previous years. But we certainly intend to produce a very comprehensive program. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Also from the United Kingdom and from Bnei Brit is Yves Swabe. Yves, would you like to add something? Introduce yourself?
Okay, well, thank you very much for asking us to introduce ourselves. Valerie has really summed up all that we do. I try and support Valerie as much as possible, as do all the other members of our team. And I can only reiterate what Valerie said about it being much tougher this year to get people to take part. But crossing fingers, as the expression goes in the UK, we'll be as successful as we have been in previous years. So thank you.
Thank you, Yves. From France, we have 3 members in the committee. May I ask Regine Bessy for her introduction?
No. I think that Regine, her phone is blocked.
Okay, then I ask again Regine Bessy from France to introduce herself.
Yes, thank you. I live in Cannes, the Côte d'Azur, and I created the journey 13 years ago, and we have a lot of manifestation, concert, colloque, and so on. And thank you for your work.
Thank you, Regine. And from France, also I have seen Dominique Friedman. Dominique, would you say some words about your institution and your work? You are national coordinator in Paris-Île-de-France.
Yes. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. As some of you know, I was recently appointed as the president of EDJC France, so European Days of Jewish Culture and Cultural Itinerary in France, just following, and I was for many years coordinator for Paris and Île-de-France. I'm succeeding Thierry Koch, who was also in our committee for many years from the beginning, but now is replaced by Regine. Thierry will continue, of course, to be involved in our work as in charge of Provence, Occitanie, and the cultural itinerary. And I'm very pleased to work with the committee each time I can be with you. And tomorrow I will tell more about the Journée européenne de la culture juive in France. So you will have an introduction about our organization in France and how we are working.
Thank you, Dominique. Coming now to Italy. From Italy, we have also some participants, members of the committee. Let's start with Michelle Nahum Sembira. Michelle, would you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Michelle Sembira. I work with EDJC on the European Days of Jewish Culture with Raffaella Di Castro, who will speak later, I suppose. She's the coordinator, the national coordinator. I work with her. And tomorrow, as Dominique said, we are going to speak more about what we're doing and how we're dealing with the organization of the national places that attend the European Days of Jewish Culture.
Thank you, Michelle. I hand over to Raffaella. Raffaella, would you add something? You are national coordinator in Italy. It's your turn.
Hello, thank you to everybody. Noemi Disegni, that was our president, already explained the philosophy that is behind our coordinating and organization of the activities for the day, that is connecting culture with memory and anti-Semitism. And an important thing I want to add that we are working very well since when Noemi was our president in collaborating with Italian institution, national and local. And this year we will have a very important connection with Presidenza del Consiglio, an institution that works against anti-Semitism and racism, and we'll have a fund to give money to activities for the Jewish European Day. That is a very important collaboration. We will explain tomorrow how we organize activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raffaella. Those who are familiar with the European Days of Jewish Culture know that we have a partner which we are very proud of. Every year, the National Library of Israel, which provides us with wonderful exhibitions which can be used during our events. And the representatives of the National Library are also members of the committees. I have seen that Naomi Bloom-Worthman and Karen Sethil are participating. Naomi, may I ask you for a short introduction?
Hi, it's really good to be here with everybody. Karen and I are joining from Jerusalem. I'm Naomi Bloom-Wortman. This is my first year working on the European Days of Jewish Culture. I've been really impressed with the professionalism and the enthusiasm of everyone that's involved. And on our end, we're working together here in the National Library to put together materials that you will be able to use and incorporate into your programs of activity, either in person or online. And tomorrow we'll be presenting the package of materials and our approach to this year's theme of love to everybody that's taking part in the training program. So we'll see you again then.
Thank you, Naomi. Karen, will you add something? Will you introduce yourself?
Yes, with pleasure. I'm Karen Settle. I'm the Program Manager for Europe at the National Library of Israel. And it's wonderful to see you all here, old friends and new. The feeling is mutual, Alfred, and we've had the pleasure of hosting you at the library. And for us, the European Day is really a fantastic opportunity to enable literally thousands of people across Europe to engage with our wonderful collections. And it's been mentioned by some of you, we are aware that we're bringing a different perspective. We know that this is not an easy time for us, but it's certainly not easy for people promoting Jewish culture and Jewish life in Europe. And I want you to know that we're very sensitive to that. And we're very optimistic about this year's theme. And again, we'll present more tomorrow about what we've done and what we have in mind. I just want to mark that this year we are celebrating 10 years cooperation with the European Day of Jewish Culture, and we're extremely proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. As I said, we already are very lucky to have you on board as a partner, and with this wonderful. You are working in the most wonderful working place in the world, in the National Library of Israel.
Thank you. We think so too. And anyone who hasn't been, please come visit. I will just say on a personal note, any of you, if you're at any time in the future in Jerusalem, please look us up and come visit.
I can recommend it. Thank you. So we have 3 more, but members of the committee which are not participating at the meeting today, if I am not wrong, it's Vicky Garsons from UK. She is cultural director of the Menorah Synagogue. We have Dovile Rukaite from Lithuania.
But maybe she is. Sorry, Alfred. I think she is. Yeah, she texted me.
Oh, Dovile, sorry, I didn't see you on the screen. Please, your introduction.
No worries. Thank you. Such a pleasure to see you all, and shalom and good afternoon. We actually counting our 10 years of anniversary, being an active member of European Days of Jewish Culture. I say active because we stepped in on 2 feet into this festival. That means we are not just participants, but we are organizers as well. So it all started 10 years ago, and I'm so proud to grow up to the committee where we discuss, we share, we create, and we are happy to present you the theme of love in 2026. And I represent a very small but very strong Lithuanian Litvak Jewish community from Vilnius. And every first Sunday in September, it smells around challah and bagels. So you can guess why challahs are round, and we really baked thousands and thousands since 2016. So pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Dovil. Teresa Kotladikova from Czech Republic. I haven't seen Aline. She is not here.
Yes, hi Alfred. I am here. Sorry, my
Oh,
camera is off.
Okay.
And I think I am logged in under the Federation Zoom, so that's probably why my name is not there. Sorry to have my camera off. Greetings to all. I'm actually currently resting home with my broken leg, so sorry, I will not turn on my camera. But I'm glad to be here and to see all of you, some of the familiar faces and some new faces. I work for the Jewish Federation of Jewish Communities in Prague. We are the umbrella organization for the Jewish communities in the Czech Republic. And we have been part of the European Days, I believe, since 2006. So it's a long history, and we are very proud of it. And every year we try to make it, festival and involved new organizations in the program. So looking forward to this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Teresa. So I think now we have all members mentioned and all members have been introduced. So again, thanks for your introduction. And as I said, if you on national or regional level have any questions concerning the European Days, please contact a member of the committee, contact the office in Barcelona, and we will help you as far as is possible from our side. And as I said, we are always open to your suggestions to improve the European Days. So I hope you have got a little bit impression what this committee is and what it is doing. And I hand over to Alina again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alfred, and our colleagues. It's my turn to introduce you a couple of things about the visuals and the theme of this year. I'm going to try to make it briefer than I had planned. Let me know if you see my screen. Yes. I will be talking about this year's theme and visual. First of all, yes, I want to introduce you for those who haven't seen it. The love visuals for this year were commissioned to a web design company that is called For Funkies, and Manel Macero is the person who was in charge of this project. I want to reach out and tell all of the organizers and coordinators if there's anything that you need in order to come up with your own visual, starting from these elements. Please do reach out to us, and Manel and the Four Funkies will help you if we cannot do that. Everything that you will see today will be uploaded on the website, and you'll be able to download it in various forms, either ready to use and just compile your own, or separate elements, or ready to use Instagram visual or Facebook or any other social media. Now, moving forward, there were some requests through the form that was public, how to use this theme love. And me coming from a museum background, I was very exposed to this challenge of giving one element, one item, one object, one word, and to come up with an artistic project. So our suggestion is, if you don't know what to organize for this year, is to find what you love about Judaism, explore it, and tell us or tell the world about it. This is how you should start. Now, there were people who asked us, what can we do beyond the textual and spiritual element of love? And I'm not going to stick too much on this page, because I'm hoping you will get inspired by what the National Library of Israel did and what our new museum has prepared for you. This is maybe one of the most on-hand topic, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But if you want to use, let's say, a different kind, or you want to come up with a different kind of project, think about love in Jewish art and material heritage. What you can do is make an inventory of your ceremonial objects or textiles or wedding contracts or paintings, photography, whatever you find. And one of the ideas could be objects of love, for example, showcasing artifacts of marriage and gifts and whatever you have in your community or at home or in your organization or museum, and so on. The next would be how to use it in how to operate with these elements coming from Jewish social ethics. The traditions, the rebuilding of Jewish post-war Jewish communities, storytelling projects. Let's say you can come up with love letters to your ancestors. You can collect intergenerational reflections from various European Jewish communities. Of course, the film screenings and short docuseries or documentaries about acts of care and the resilience within Jewish communities. There are dozens, even not thousands, of stories that I'm sure you can find in your community. This includes moments in history before the Holocaust or after the Holocaust. Be brave and partner as much as you can with NGOs, non-Jewish NGOs, and one of possible actions could be Love in Action or events, Love in Action Day, where you can emphasize this social responsibility inspired by the Jewish values. Of course, what I'm telling you here is just an overview and just a spark of what you can do with this topic beyond love of Torah, love of God, love of neighbor, which are icons of what love in Judaism is about. Of course, the performances are very handy for everybody. Series of concerts. You can come up with a choir in your own community or go to schools and engage with the choir or the music teachers and come up with a repertoire of Jewish songs, teach them how to sing, and the theme should be or could be love, dance performances, and so on. Feel free to get into the literature space. We're very familiar here with Ladino, but also Yiddish in Eastern Europe or Central Eastern Europe. It's something very, very rich and complex. Exhibitions or just posting on digital platforms, showing these cross-cultural love stories in art, let's say letters from Jewish communities across Europe. I know you are all familiar with Zikaron Besalon. You can take this concept and transform it into Zikaron Besalon on a love story. Again, partner with non-Jewish cultural institutions to show mutual influences in art and music, and of course, why not ethics? For students and on the educational level, one of the projects that I once worked on, and it was very relevant, was what love means in my heritage. And groups from Christian, Muslim, or Jewish environments can share this, their ideas and what this concept means in their community. Photography competition on love stories. Reach out to teenagers. They love taking photographs and snapshots of love moments. And this is something you can wrap up the Jewish love around. And of course, having artists in residency. And if you can afford commissioned artworks and performances, that's something that you can also do. Ending here, because we're a little bit out of time. Remember, what do you love about Jewish culture, about Judaism? Explore it and tell the world about it. And if you need any help, like coming up with an inventory of whatever you have in your organization, community, museum, and so on, please do reach out, and we'll make sure that this is something that we can work together. This is not, it's something that we can easily do. I think I will end my presentation here, and of course, if you want to reach out to me personally or to any of us, we are available and happy to assist and happy to work on this together. I hope those who wrote in the forum and requested this kind of guidance are satisfied, or if not, we will work on it on a personal level. It's Sonia's turn, and she prepared a slide for the for cities embracing Jewish heritage, which Sonia, I did not add to my presentation. So while you start speaking, I will look it up and just put it on.
No need.
Okay.
Don't worry. I'll be very.
But let me do my work here.
Sorry.
So, Sonia is a cultural manager and educator with extensive experience in Jewish community development and informal education. She spent nearly a decade in Budapest, Hungary, working with the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee in various roles, including as a program director of the International Jewish Youth Camp in Sarvas, and as educational director of regional programs. I'm telling you all this because Sonia is a very valuable colleague, and she's a rich resource, having all this wrapped around her. So reach out to her for whatever needs you do have. And Sonia, please.
Thank you very much for a beautiful introduction. Hi, everyone. Today I will briefly just talk about the project that we already mentioned, Cities Embracing Jewish Heritage, which is an initiative under European Days of Jewish Culture. And its initiative, most of you here are actually coming from Jewish institutions or communities or organizations, but this initiative is designed for municipalities and other governmental bodies, because at some point AEPJ realized that we need to mobilize more our cities and our governments in order to take care and engage with Jewish heritage. So since last year we started this project, and we are asking and reaching out to municipalities, as I said, and other governmental institutions to come up with the projects during the European Days of Jewish Culture, and if possibly connected to the theme of European Days of Jewish Culture. And for that, this year we are also launching a call that is starting in May, and it will be open until the end of July. And each municipality can get a micro grant actually to do some initiatives. Why we think that it's important to share this is, first of all, because we feel that you are our partners in spreading that word to the municipalities you cooperate with or institutions you cooperate with. And second of all, if you don't have this partnership, but you would like to develop it, maybe we can do it together by sending official emails and connected you to municipalities. Our aim is also to put less burden on Jewish institutions when it comes to Jewish heritage, but also make sure that governments and cities understand that it's also their responsibility, and we see you absolutely as their partners in this. What does it mean? In my case, it's not connected to general European Days of Jewish Culture, but for cities, municipalities need to apply with the project. They need to have their contact person. I'm in contact with them, not with you on formally, but of course informally I'll be happy to plan and do things that are helpful to you and to your European Days of Jewish Culture. So please feel free. I will send you now the direct link to the website for municipalities. There is also an open call that you can join on 12th of May, which is next week. We will do a few more. You can just register and I can explain you more in details, and we can also speak about how we can actually help you get municipalities partner with you during the European Days of Jewish Culture. I think I already mentioned it, but maybe as a last sentence, we offer a small grant to municipalities to do something. So it can also be helpful for your events. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Please do reach out to her or any of us if you are interested in more details. Moving on, this year, ANU Museum for Jewish People, represented here by Lindsay Shapiro and Liron Biran, and also Rachel Drash is not here, but she's behind this project, this cooperation too. We're honored and delighted. Hi, Lindsay.
Hey, everyone.
And Liron, yes. We're a bit late, but don't worry. As I told you, it's important that people know you and that they reach out to you if this partnership is suitable for them. We're hoping that's why you're here. But before we begin, I want to introduce you. This is, let's say, a dedicated workshop. We call it like this. It's challenging to do it on this platform, but I can assure you that these ladies are highly professional. They manage all these kind of projects all the time. I learned a lot from them. And here it is. Lindsay Shapiro is a senior coordinator of English education at the Koret International School for Jewish Peoplehood, ANU. She specializes in developing engaging educational content. It is true that connects global audiences with Jewish identity and heritage. And Liron Biran is the head of the Department of Research and Educational Development at ANU. So we're not dealing here with, she leads innovative projects that integrate academic research with experiential learning in Jewish education. And Rachel, a lovely, 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 lovely lady. She's not here with us. She apologizes, but I have to call her name. She's a director of the global education at ANU. And she oversees international educational initiatives, fostering connections between Jewish communities worldwide through dynamic and inclusive programming. I can relate. I'm part of one, and this is a real thing. Okay, bear with us. There's going to be some technical movements here. So if this takes a little bit of time, please be patient. I can promise you that this is worth it was worth waiting for. Lindsay, you're in charge.
Alina, you're really building it up.
Yeah.
Setting a high expectation. I'll just say, even though we are running a little bit late, we are here in Israel, so this is a totally normal workday for us. We're really happy to be on here. Liron and myself, we're sitting in the same hallway here, just in a different space, and our colleague Rachel Dratch. Really great to be here. We'll express our sincere thanks to the European Days of Jewish Culture and the AEPJ, and also to Alina and all of the team for making this happen. It's very exciting to see so many people on here. So truly, thank you so much for having us. Unlike other people, I think this is our first year participating in the European Days of Jewish Culture. Hopefully not the first of many, hopefully not the last. So we're really, really honored and excited to be on here with everybody today. We've prepared, we're very excited with the theme of Jewish love languages, of love being the concept for this year's theme. And as we began to think about it, we wanted to figure out a very practical way of bringing this tool of love, which can be a very subjective or very conceptual idea, into something that's quite practical and something that all of us here, whether you're working at a museum or another heritage site, or you're running the program, that you can bring and realistically bring to the learners that are coming to learn with you, regardless of their religious, national, or social background. It can be something that's applicable and engaging for everybody. So that being said, we want to go through this workshop with everybody. And then at the end, as Alina just mentioned, we'd love to share it with everybody and stay connected with you so that you can take it and use it throughout the year, but of course in September as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hang on just a second. All right. So just give me a quick thumbs up if you can see this. Cool, awesome. All right, so now we're talking about Jewish love languages, and you might be asking yourself, what does this even mean? And I promise you, we will get into it. However, as we're getting into it, we wanted to set a couple of ground rules. So how will this work? We are going to present this workshop to you, workshop conversation. And again, it's something that you can directly translate and bring to your communities wherever you're working. You can also use it, we suggest using it with your staff, also as a staff training. Here's what we want to say ahead of time. Get ready to share. So get ready to participate here, ask and think. Be the audience that you want to have. We work in museum also. We're used to working with students and learners of all backgrounds all day long, and we all know the groups of people that come in and don't want to say anything, and you think, please just answer the question. So be your ideal audience, the people that you want to be working with, okay? So that's what we ask of everybody today. This workshop, there's a lot to go over. We will try to hear from as many people as possible. We might not get to hear every voice. It's not personal, but we want to get to show you everything that's included here, and we'll leave our contact information at the end in case you want to share something else with us, because we do want to hear from everybody. And the last thing I'll encourage everybody to say is constantly think, for those of you who are organizers, how can I bring this to my organization in September or throughout the year, or to a staff training? How can I make this realistic for myself in Austria, in France, in Germany, or wherever else you're at? So that's what I encourage to everybody. Now, everybody ready? Now we're going to start with the first question.
Lindsay, beforehand, I'm stopping you just a second.
Yes.
We don't see this, while we do see your screen, it's not, the presentation isn't animated. And so if you switch between the slides, we can't see that.
Can you see, does it say initial reflection?
No, we're still in the Jewish love languages.
Oh, well, that's an important point. Thank you. Hold on just a second. I'm going to end this. Hang on, everybody. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, let's try this again. Hold on. All right, love languages. And now do you see how will this work?
No.
Oh, well, that's a problem. Hold on. Hang on just a second. Hold on. Everybody talk amongst yourselves. This is something I promise we were practicing. All right. Now.
Cool.
Can you see it okay now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so now everybody sees the slide of how will this work, right? Give me a quick thumbs up if you can. Beautiful. All right, so this is what I just went over. How will this work? Like I said, it should be interactive. The workshop has lots of great content in it. And the last point is always keep in the back of your minds, how can I bring this to my organization and make it realistic, regardless of where I'm at in the world? Now, like I started speaking about, but now you can actually see it. We want to ask everybody to take an initial reflection. This is not a major assignment, but to get yourself thinking about your own story, right? We'll start with the personal. Now, I want everybody to think of an object, either from your family or from a community that you are part of, a Jewish community, a non-Jewish community, wherever it is, that carries more, hold on a second, that carries more love or meaning than its exterior shows. You can write it in the chat if you would like to. I recommend doing so. Write this object that you have in your family or in your community that has a story of love behind it that you don't know unless you know the story. If you're just looking at something. If you know what it is, if you have it in your mind, throw it in the chat, write it in the chat, please. We want to know. But think about an object that you have in your family or your community that has a cooking pot. Great, love that. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Again, it's not an assignment, just to get us all thinking and playing along here. An object that carries more love or meaning than its exterior shows. Family table, a t-shirt, small Magen David. Great, keep throwing the answers in there. And as you continue to think about it, we're going to go to the next part. And I want to introduce this concept of the 5 love languages. Now, write in the chat or raise your hand on Zoom if you've heard of this concept before. It's absolutely okay if you haven't heard of it. Okay. Some of us have heard of it. I see a couple of hands, but it's actually kind of exciting that most people haven't, and I'm okay with that. So the 5 love languages is not inherently a Jewish idea. It's a concept developed by Dr. Gary Chapman, who is an American psychologist, that describes the different ways people give and receive love, right? This concept of showing love or empathy or respect or honor comes in different forms. And Dr. Chapman and his team that argue that love is love, but each person or place or community shows that love in a very different way, in one of 5 different love languages. And by understanding this, we can better understand a person. Now, this goes also for a family or a larger group or community. By understanding how we show love or respect or honor to one another, we can better understand their values, history, and connections to ourselves. And I was taking notes as all of the speakers were talking, and both Madame Bloch and Noémie de Segni spoke about this idea of culture being something that can connect people despite all the outside things that might spread us apart. We might look different or speak different languages, but a concept of culture can be quite international, and that's what can connect us. And I love that both of you spoke about that, because that's very true and very much about what we're speaking about here. All right, so we're going to move on, but just to make sure, are there any questions about this love language? If it's not clear yet, it might start to be clear in the next slide. All right, so we talked about these love languages, and now we have to ask for ourselves, what are these 5 love languages? So there's physical touch, words of affirmation, right? Saying something nice or kind to one another, or saying I love you. Acts of service, which could be helping somebody out, taking out the trash, doing something that they don't want to do, filling out their taxes for them. One is quality time, saying, hey, I would like to spend time with you. I would like to go to get coffee with you, or I want to go to a movie with you, or just be around you. And there's also gift giving, right? I went on a vacation and I bought you a gift because it made me think about you. And this physical object shows my love. Again, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, or gift giving. And I can tell for some of you, a lot of you actually, that I can see, you're starting to think about what language might be your love language. How do you get or receive or give love? It might be different. For Liron and I, it's quite different, and everybody on our staff we asked, it's very different. And if you can think of yours, and if you want to, I suggest that you put it in the chat, because we're all best friends now. We can all know very personal information about one another. Write it in the chat if you want to. What's your language of love? All right. But we're thinking about this, okay? So we have these 5 love languages. And I want to point out that Dr. Gary Chapman, the creator of this concept, He is not Jewish, neither were most of his team that created it. And we're showing through this, we're taking a very general philosophy and applying a Jewish lens to it, or applying a Jewish mindset to it that we can use in our practical teaching in September or throughout the year. We also want to talk about this concept of Jewish peoplehood, which I know at least we've gotten to, Alina and Nives and Dovile and Sonia and us have all gotten to have these conversations before. But in case you're not familiar with this concept of Jewish peoplehood, or in Hebrew it's called Amiyut Yehudit, it's the fundamental concept that Jews are a people, that is not only an ethnicity or a race or religion. That might factor into it, but it's not the only thing. It's showing that Jews are a people connected to one another across time and space around the globe in different countries and also through centuries, right? Jews today have a connection with Jews living 2,000 years ago because we see ourselves existing in the same space. And there are different points of connection that differ from one person to another. Jews see ourselves as both an ancient people, but also as a people living and breathing in the modern world. All right, it's a lot of philosophy right now, I know, but this is crucial for setting up the foundation to where we're about to go, okay? So, Jewish peoplehood. And come here, there we go. Our 6 pillars of, this is a lot of numbers, I know. The 6 pillars of Jewish peoplehood include shared memory, a multifaceted connection to Israel, values, languages, culture, and spirituality or religious practice. And through 1 or 6 of these connections, Jews can connect with one another in different parts of the world. All right. So now that we have at least a basis of understanding, and it's okay if it's not 100% clear right now, it might take a few moments or a few hours to marinate in your brains, but we're thinking about this idea of love languages and Jewish peoplehood, and we can see how these are going to overlap with one another. I love that everybody's writing in the chat. It makes me so happy to learn everybody's love language. So take this with you. Now, we're moving to the next part. Now, we also see this in a Jewish context, in that Jews have a connection through our individuals, family, community, and people. And through these different points, right, as do other communities, of course, not only Jews, we can connect with one another. Now we want to take an opportunity to go through these 5 love languages, our 5 love languages that we've just spoken about, and see how there's a practical application to objects that we have here in our museum. But I can imagine some of these objects might be very similar to what you're working with, regardless of wherever you are, either in Israel or throughout Europe. You might have something very similar, but we can learn from this static object that doesn't have a person necessarily connected to it. We can understand the connection that that Jews had centuries ago or up until today, what kind of love they were trying to express with this object. All right, so please write any questions in the chat, or feel free to stop if you've got questions or want to clarify something. But if we're all ready, let's get started on our first love languages, which is words of affirmation. So whoever wrote that in the chat, this is for you. Words of affirmation, right? It's expressing love through verbal compliments, encouragement, and appreciation. Saying something kind, saying something really nice, wow, I really love your skirt, or I love you so much. That can be words of affirmation, something that you can hear or read or write to one another, right? Our words of affirmation might be through WhatsApp. So what we want to show to you here is an object that has clearly lots of words in it. It's written in Aramaic. This is a ketubah, or a Jewish marriage contract. This one is likely from Baghdadi Jewish family, likely from living in Calcutta, India. This ketubah that you see right here on the right part of my screen is from 1921, so a little over a century ago. It was the marriage of Reuven Sasson ben Yechezkel, Ezra Yitzchak Eliyahu, and Mazal Tov Bat Shlomo Yitzchak Shlomo Binyamin. Very impressive names. So we have this marriage contract, or this ketubah, and I want to ask, and I want to open this up to everybody, put it in the chat. Why would we say this is words of affirmation? Yes, of course, there are words included. We get that. But what about what's included in a marriage contract or a ketubah indicates a connection with love? Because in a ketubah, the word love isn't necessarily the main focus. That's not what we're talking about. It doesn't say, I love you so much, and then we sign and that's it, you're married. What's included in this? And if you have ideas, please write it in the chat. I told you, remember, be those participants that you want to have on your tours. And if you're not clear yet what's included in a ketubah, that's absolutely okay. You can think about it a little bit, but if anybody is familiar with what kind of agreement is in a ketubah, you're welcome to write it in the chat. And I know there's a little bit of a delay sometimes with the chat, so I'm going to keep sharing, but I'll read out any answers that come through. We know that in a ketubah, there's words and agreements that each partner has to live up to a certain agreement or a status of marriage, right? You have to. Alina wrote, is love as a form of respect, exactly, as partners. You're not two random partners that are thrown together. There's a printed out contract of how you're supposed to respect each other. That doesn't always happen in practically, unfortunately, whether that's in 1921 up until today, not always, but the idea is that that respect is there. Thierry Koch wrote, Ketubah speaks about protection, about mutual assistance, right? That you're doing this together. And through that, even though it doesn't spell out love, we understand there's love as a form of respect here.
And also,
So
I want
you
to
to
add, Lindsay, sorry, but there's going on and continuing what Thierry said. I mean, a part of the protection, because the ketubah does indicate that, it does take into account the possibility that this marriage might not hold. It might fall apart at one point. But now that we are in the mode of respecting one another, of virtually loving one another, even if it's not the modern love that we think of, we now want to make sure that even should something horrible happen between us and this marriage will break up, both sides will be protected. And so that's really a form, it's protection in that form that we even think about the rainy day that might one day arrive between the two of us. And we want to ensure that we are both protected should that ever happen to us.
Right. So all of these different aspects, we see love coming through with this beautiful ketubah or other ketubot or other marriage contracts that are written even up until today. All right, so we're going to go to the next love language. We've gone from words of affirmation to physical touch. So you might interpret this as giving somebody a hug or a kiss or something like this. Expressing, we've clarified it, it's expressing love through, oh, that's funny. That's incorrect because that's words of affirmation. Trick. So expressing love through physical actions. Now you might do that with another person or with a child or somebody that you love as a friend. You might give them a hug, but we can also see this if we put on our lens through the Jewish lens. How can we see this being expressed in the Jewish tradition? And so we've got two images here from two very different Jewish communities, but again, using physical touch. On the left, we have the wife of a kiss or an Ethiopian Jewish priest touching a mezuzah. If you're familiar with it, many Jews, if you see a mezuzah or a prayer scroll attached to a doorpost outside of somebody's home, or even within a home or a building with going into each room, other than a bathroom, oftentimes Jews will traditionally kiss it and touch it with their hand physically using their hands and their mouth as a sign of respect. So this photograph was taken in Walaka, Ethiopia in 1983. And then about 13 years later, the photo on the right was taken, but this place, it's the remainder of a mezuzah in a former ancient synagogue in Alsace, France. If you look very closely, you see the doorpost right here, and you can see almost like an indent in the cement that's on the wall here. So while somebody can, oops, spoiler alert, if you go through, you can't actually touch the mezuzah because it's not there anymore. Oftentimes we see this in other parts of Europe where a building that used to have Jewish residents or it used to be a synagogue might have had a mezuzah. Now those people are no longer there. They might have moved to a new space or a new building, but the remainder, the physical remainder is still there. And you can see the imprint that you go in and touch. So this photograph is taken in France, again, using that physical touch with the mezuzah as a reference to respecting a place and respecting the actions that go on in a certain place. All right, now we're going to our next element, another example of physical touch. Go ahead, Liron.
Thank you. So what we see here is a gartel, as it's stated in Yiddish. It obviously is derived from the German word Gürtel, and I apologize for all our German speakers for my pronunciation, but a Gürtel is a belt, essentially. And what we see here is a Hasidic tradition, because Hasidim actually use this gartel. They tie it around their waist during prayer, and when they, kind of separate the two parts of the body, the one that is more about spirituality and the one that is more carnal. But also specifically taking us to the photograph next to it, in the Hasidic tradition and really in the religion, the ultra-Orthodox tradition, a touch between a man and a woman is governed by very strict laws of modesty. And yet, on their wedding day, a couple does find a way, because it's very uncustomary for the groom and the bride to dance with one another and to touch one another. Definitely, when we expand it, the bride cannot touch another man who she is not married to. However, during the very joyful dancing, the mitzvah dance that follows the ceremony, the wedding ceremony, the groom and the bride, it is customary that each one of them takes hold of the opposite ends of a gartel, which is just a thin and braided belt that is worn, again, by Hasidic men, and they dance together. They manage to dance with one another. Of course, the bride can dance this way with her father, with the rabbi, with other men in the congregation, and this really shows us how it's connected through this space between them, and it's really perhaps the most eloquent example of love that finds a way through a constraint, a physical constraint, because this way the gartel does become an extension of the hand that cannot be held. It's this thread of longing and tenderness that is stretched between two people who have just bound their lives together. And in this way, physical touch is really, which is made impossible by modesty law, is not abandoned. It is just transformed. And in this transformation, it really becomes something even more charged with meaning, because we have the desire to reach across and to be reached, which is expressed in virtually the only way that the bride and the groom can make it happen during this setting. So physical touch in this essence, in this way, really doesn't have to be immediate. It can be achieved through various other means and various other material objects.
Absolutely. Like Taylor wrote in the chat, gartel is touch without touching.
Exactly.
Excellent. Any more, Leon, or should we keep moving to the next?
Let's go.
All right. So we've seen words of affirmation, physical touch. Our next is acts of service. So showing love by doing helpful things for someone, like cooking a meal or running an errand. And for those of you who know who I am, one of my favorite things to talk about is the history and culture surrounding food. I think it's quite fascinating, but it shows a lot more than just the rice or the potatoes or the meat or whatever the ingredients are. The story behind what's cooked, why it's cooked, and who's it cooked by and for whom is incredibly important. And so that's what we're including on our acts of service. Our example here is taken from Foodish, which is a food the food database at ANU. This is a traditional chamin or Shabbat stew. You might know it by another name, oftentimes cholent. This is from a Jewish family living in Israel, but they're originally from Tunisia and taken quite recently, as you can see. So this family who has brought in their Tunisian heritage with them from Tunisia to Israel, and then cooking this meal. Now, if you're not familiar with it, or if you are familiar with it, maybe you're thinking about what your family adds to it or what you like to have in it. Everybody's very particular. But this food is oftentimes made on a Friday morning or a Friday afternoon. Lots of ingredients are put into a slow cooker, oftentimes pieces of meat or beans or rice, eggs, as you can see in this recipe, or hard-boiled eggs, onions, things like that. Whatever you have is put into a slow cooker and it cooks slowly. And now with the traditional prohibition of lighting a fire on the day of rest on Shabbat, now it's something that can be eaten and enjoyed for Saturday afternoon lunch. Now you can have this any time of the week. It's totally legal, but usually you would only have this on a Saturday and then a Sunday and Monday and Tuesday afterwards when you have to finish what's in the pot. Now, this is made with a huge sense of love. If you grew up with a family member, an older family member, a parent or a grandparent making food for you, it's absolutely a source of love. Whereas some grandparents are reluctant to say verbally, I love you, and give you a hug. Oftentimes, some people will give dishes of food or cut fruit for you or give some kind of service that's connected to food as a showing of, I want to do this for you. Somebody wrote, cooking for bereaved people is also a Jewish tradition, 100%. We also know that not only for bereaved people, but oftentimes new mothers, other women in the community oftentimes in a Jewish community, but it's not only in a Jewish community, will cook and prepare food for her and her family because she doesn't have the time to make it because she's busy with a new baby. So using food and these traditional dishes that are surrounded around special holidays, Shabbat, is absolutely a love language through acts of service. And as we're now, Dovile has gotten us started thinking about challah. Now we're thinking about chamin. So if keep planning your weekend, your Shabbat meals, everybody. And we're going to head to the next acts of service. Come here. And that is one of the most beautiful installations that we've got at Anu, and that's the Chodorov ceiling. The Chodorov synagogue was built in 1722. It was destroyed in 1943. We have a recreation of the synagogue ceiling right here at the very top. If you've been to Anu before, after you're in Israel and you go to the National Library of Israel, then you're going to come to Anu too. We're going to do a whole thing. You'll come and see the recreation of this synagogue ceiling. It's huge. It's beautiful. There's also a replica of a similar synagogue, but in a much bigger scale at the Polin Museum. So if you're familiar with that, it's along the same lines. It's beautiful. It's expressive, and you can also see an image that was taken from the Yad Vashem archives of what the synagogue looked like on the outside. Now, where's the acts of service? Okay, very nice. A building. It's cool. It's pretty. What's the story behind it? The Chodorov synagogue, it was finished in 1722, but we know through records and through personal diaries and recollections that the synagogue took actually decades to build, meaning that the people, the elders of the community in Chodorov, which is in Galicia or present-day Ukraine, when they decided to invest the money, the resources into building this, they fully knew that they likely would not be alive when the synagogue was finished. They likely would not see their children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren playing because it took so long to build the synagogue itself. And so this acts of service is from an older generation investing in the younger generation, saying, I want to invest in a safe, beautiful synagogue for my family members, and that's how I'm showing my love for the next generation, even if I'm not here to see it. So that's the story, again, around Chodorov. And for those of you who are representing synagogues or other monuments or places of architecture, maybe there's similar stories within those other synagogues or places that you're representing, similar stories as in with Chodorov. All right, so we've seen words of affirmation, physical touch, our acts of service. Now we're heading on to quality time. Now, this is really fun because Liron and I got to pick our favorite things in the museum, even though everything is our favorite in the museum. This is one of my favorite images. Quality time is showing love by giving someone your full undivided attention, whether through deep conversation or shared activities, right? I hope that's pretty clear. This picture, Michelle wrote, like the carob tree, absolutely, with planting a tree that would take years to fruit. Now, this image right here, when we're talking about quality time, this is taken a photograph. We had to ask a Polish colleague to help us pronounce this, so I apologize for anybody who's Polish and on here because our Polish is not fluent. Now I've forgotten it. Laszkierzew. In Poland, and if I pronounce that wrong, feel free to message me mean things. It's okay. This is taken in 1926, and it's of a cheder for girls, right? A girls learning together with one another. You can see it's in black and white, and again in 1926, so exactly a century ago, this photograph was taken. On the left side, you see the teacher or the educator of some figure that she's teaching the girls. There are 7 girls here at the table with her. It's quite crowded. They're reading from texts. It's unclear exactly what text they're reading from, but some obviously Jewish texts. It's very crowded. The texts themselves look like they're very worn. This is definitely not the first group of people to learn from these texts, but she's sitting with them and would do so traditionally with these girls for hours a week or as much time as they would be allowed to while allowing for their other chores to happen. We loved it because it showed not only boys learning, but also girls learning as well. And the time that this teacher, this educator is taking down to sit with these girls, when you can imagine, she likely has a large family. She likely has a million other things that she could be doing. She could be cleaning or helping out with her other children or cooking or preparing something for Shabbat. She's taking the time and dedicating herself to helping these girls read, not only because she sees the importance in education, but she loves showing her love and respect for these girls sitting at the table. And I'll mention, if we pick up apart the picture, it also looks like, at least to us, that these girls knew that this photographer was coming. You can see the girls are really well dressed. One on the right side is wearing a necklace, necklace, which I imagine it to be her mother's necklace or her grandmother's necklace that she's taken to wear here. It shows that they were quite excited for this photograph. But again, using this photograph to show quality time, this is also something that I think could be recreated and represented in your communities. All right, Liron is going to talk about the other element of quality
One of
time.
my personal favorites. So this one is somewhat ironic, and I'll explain why. We often know when we speak of Shabbat, the immediate reaction is that this is ultimately, regardless of how we celebrate it and how we mark it, there's always that sense of anticipation to our Shabbat, to spending time with our families. And what we have here, again from Anu's collection, is the challah cover. Now, challah covers are oftentimes very, very, they're very much anointed, you know, they're very much anointed, they're very decorated, they're very much decorated. They have embroidery, oftentimes made of velvet, which is the case here. And this artist, Itamar Sagi, who's an Israeli artist, this was created in 1985, or somewhere along those lines. But when we really take a deeper look at it and see what the artist chose to embroider on this challah cover, it isn't the Zachor v'Shamor or the Zachor, the keep and remember the Shabbat, which is what we often find on challah covers. What he wrote here is, and I'll translate it, it's Alone on the Roof, Shabbatot v'Chagim, Shabbat and Holidays, which is a line from a popular Israeli song. That is, I'm not going to go through the entire backstory of it, but ultimately it does tell, I mean, the song tells about a woman who, for various reasons, has to spend her Shabbatot v'Chagim, her Shabbat and holidays, all by herself. And so when Itamar Sagi chose to create this, he wanted to show us a few things. First of all, he did want to say, yes, there's something very celebratory and very worth our while when we think of Shabbat. It is definitely the time of the week that we all wait for, that we all anticipate for. However, there is also a call to action. When we have the privilege of sitting down with our loved ones, with our friends and families, and celebrate together and eat together, we should always keep in mind those who, for various reasons, are not with their families, those who are alone, those who have to spend that time mainly anticipating when Shabbat will be over so that I won't feel so lonesome anymore. And so this is, again, something that it is really, again, a call to action. When we celebrate, when we have the chance of showing our love, of expressing our love language through quality time, we should always be mindful of those who don't have that privilege. And we should always ensure that no one is kept alone, that we also include others in our quality time with our loved ones. And so I think that the irony in this object, yes, it celebrates Shabbat, which is definitely a wonderful thing and very, very worthy, but it also comes with a social action that we all should take upon ourselves. Definitely, you know, whether it's from a personal, a family, or a community context.
Yes. And now we're moving on to our last love language, which I'll also hand over to Liron.
Yes. So our final language, which we haven't yet talked about, is gift giving. Gift giving, which essentially it's expressing love through tangible objects, through the tokens that are thought, a result of affection and thought. And it's really less about the money or the monetary value, even the nostalgic value of, or the story about it, but it's just about the meaning behind the very mere gesture of giving something to another person. Now, of course, our immediate thought might be, oh, tzedakah, why didn't you put a tzedakah box? Because, of course, ensuring that the poor people of our community have enough is definitely a fundamental aspect of the Jewish tradition. However, we wanted, again, to see it from not just the immediate side, but also take a look at something else. And what we have here is a pendant, an amulet, really, which depicts an image of Fatima. Fatima was one of the daughters of Muhammad the Prophet, which we might know from the Islam. Now, one may ask themselves, why is it that you show an amulet that bears the picture of Fatima in the Museum of the Jewish People? And it really does, again, begin with a story of love. It begins with a story of a proposal. This is one of those objects that not only is it very small, that one may miss with a blink of an eye, but it's also one of those monuments that really has a very, very profound story behind it. And it begins with a man by the name of Benjamin Sar, who was the son of a Jewish Persian merchant. He fell in love with a woman he met during one of his travels. Her name was Sarah, and she agrees to marry him. They very quickly met and fell in love. She agrees to marry him on one condition, that one day they will spend their lives together in the city of Jerusalem. And he agreed. And then on their wedding day, after he said, but before we end up in Jerusalem, we will go and visit my family in Mashhad, which is in Persia, in Iran, modern day Iran. He did gift her this amulet. It was really a gift from a husband to his new bride. However, the amulet really carried a weight that was much, much heavier than the actual physical material that it's made of, because Benjamin's family lived in the Mashhad, where in the 1820s, the Jewish community had been forced to choose between conversion to Islam and death, essentially, just like the crypto Jews of Spain and Portugal had lived, and many of them did convert, but only on their surface. From 100 years, or even more so, they did live as crypto Jews, meaning that they presented themselves outwardly as Muslim, but secretly they kept the Jewish faith and identity. And by gifting Sarah this amulet, which bears again the face of Islam's most revered men, Benjamin was essentially asking something extraordinary of her, to trust him with her identity, her safety, and her life. Just wear this, show to the outside world that what they see is a Muslim woman, but beneath it, you will remain who you are. And for years, Sarah and other women of Mashhad did pass on, they used their very, very large dresses to pass around Torah scrolls and sacred objects from house to house, allowing the community to maintain its Jewish identity. All the while, they wore this kind of amulet on their chest as their only protection. And then we should say that at the very end of the story, Benjamin did keep his promise, and he took Sarah to Jerusalem, where they lived for their entire life together. But as a love token, this is so much more, because it really does show the protection. This is an object that we actually received from Sarah and Benjamin's granddaughter. And then she gifted it to us in order to ensure that the story of the crypto Jews of Mashhad does go on. So this is really something that started with love, turned into a love as protection, and then was gifted to all of us to share and to learn about and to know. So again, one of our favorite objects around that really requires you to know the backstory. And then the final one, another piece of jewelry. It's a Star of David necklace. We're traveling from Iran to the USSR. This again was gifted to the museum by a very, very, very special woman by the name of Connie Smuckler. This kind, what we can see here is a necklace that has Stars of David. And when one takes a look at it, not knowing the backstory, they may seem that it's just, it's a necklace. You can argue whether it's tasteful or not. But what's very, very special about this, being just a piece of jewelry, it had no problem traveling through the customs of the USSR by Jewish travelers who have traveled from the West to into the Soviet Union, while during the era of the Iron Curtain. But once they went through customs, these kind of necklaces were taken apart, and these Stars of David were given and gifted to various Jews who had lived behind the Iron Curtain. And this was just, it had absolutely zero, it might have not had any physical value other than the solidarity and the message that your brothers and sisters from behind the Iron Curtain are thinking about you, are fighting for your freedom, and just take this little token, which was actually very dangerous to be caught with, but take this token just for us to make sure that you know you are loved, you know you are cherished, you know that you are remembered. We are thinking about you. And so again, this, and this goes way beyond the community. This goes, we started out by Lindsay talking about the connection and peoplehood. This is really one of the truest forms of Jewish, connectivity that expands way beyond countries and borders.
Absolutely. So we've gone through all 5 of our love languages here. And again, if you've got questions or things to share, please put it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you as we're going through. We've gone through all 5 different ones. And now we've shown some examples from our collection. I'm sure you're thinking about where you can see these objects and within your own institutions. So now we're going to move on to the next portion. Hold on. Now it's your turn to decide. So we're going to be going into small breakout rooms in just a minute, of 3 people in each room, and we're going to be quote unquote reading these objects, reading objects, buildings, and more to understand the love languages that are attached to them. Now, instead of us giving you objects, now here's where we want you to shine. Please think about, as we're just about to go into the breakout rooms, think about an object or 2 that you have in your collection, your museum, your school, your synagogue, your culture institution, wherever you're representing. And if you don't happen to represent an institution like that, we welcome you to think of any kind of object that you've seen that would represent your city or your country, and try to start thinking about what kind of love language could be attached to that object. And now within each of these, we know the stories behind our objects, and that's how we know this language of love. You know the objects that you're speaking about, and those objects might also be an entire building or a cemetery. Start thinking about this. In just a moment, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we want you to go over the following questions. And I'll put these in the chat so you have them, and we'll freeze the screen so it's on here. You don't have to answer every single question. If your group gets stuck on one and you want to talk about that for the whole time, be our guest. So the questions are, which love languages does this object primarily express? Again, the object in question is something that you think about and that you share with your partners in your breakout room. At what level does it operate? Individual, family, community, people, maybe even more than one. Who do you think uses this object? And who received its love? Imagine a very specific person. Like if you have a ketubah or a marriage contract, imagine, even if you don't know who it is, that's okay. Just for the exercise, let's imagine, when was this given? Who do you think gave it? What kind of day was their wedding? Where was their wedding? Who was there? Think about the stories that could be connected to it. Which story is not visible, whether that's trauma or history or displacement or joy, right? We saw in the image with the mezuzah in Alsace, France, that isn't there anymore, but we can still see the outline. And then, ignore number, does your collection have a parallel? Think about that with the other partners in your group. All right, so any questions before we go to the breakout rooms? Excellent. Okay, I'm reminding everybody to be the participant that you want to have. So talk, be
I have a
curious, ask
question.
questions. Please.
What do you mean by does your collection have a parallel?
So let's say if you're in a group with 2 other people and they're talking about, let's say we're using the ketubah as an example, you might say in the National Library of Israel, we actually have a great parallel. There is something quite similar. We have another ketubah from a similar space. So something that you can connect with your other participants. But that's a great question, actually. Any other questions? Excellent. All right, so
Let's
I
break
think,
out.
yeah, have fun. We'll see everybody back here in just a few minutes. Make
Mark,
new
if you're
friends.
ready, we're ready.
Let's do it. All right, see everybody
Wait, how
soon.
long are we in the breakout rooms?
Probably like, let's say 6 minutes. Okay. All right. Have lots of fun. Liron, can you copy and paste the questions in the chat?
Of course.
I don't want to get out of share screen here.
No, don't. Hold on. See. If I post it on the chat, will they be able to see it from all the rooms?
They should be able to.
Okay. Okay. So far, so good. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there anybody who has issues at joining the breakout room? Regine, Anita, Noemi, Millie, Michael, please let me know.
The coordinator. Oh,
Lena, Nevis, and Dovile and Sonia know this. We're going to share a line that our colleague Rachel Dratch says. Ooh, yikes! Why is that? Actually, sees everybody hear my new voice. Jeez. Okay, so again, I'm going to share something our colleague Rachel Dratch says. What are the problems that will arise if you know that something works? So we hope that the problem that arose with your groups now is that you didn't have enough time to talk to everybody. Should that be the best problem that you have? And we encourage now you have all these great new friends, or you've gotten to connect with other people that you know, and continue these conversations. Now, we're very curious to hear everybody's conversation, but we want to make sure that we show you other elements of this workshop. So instead of going around and sharing an insight with your voices, welcome back. Instead of going around and sharing an insight that you got from your group with your voices, again, if you could use the chat, which we've got open and we're taking a look at, something interesting that was interesting that came up, or surprising, or that you really loved, share with us what you got from your group, or what came up in your conversation. So I think we can probably learn with one another. Again, share any insights that you had with your group, something new, something surprising, something that you're going to take with you. Again, as we were all analyzing, maybe not psychoanalyzing, but just regular analyzing the objects and the artifacts that we use in our communities to see a sense of love or connection with what they are. We're quite curious to learn about what everybody spoke about. Put it in the chat as you're thinking about it. But we're going to keep moving on, but we'll take a look at what those insights are in the chat and as they come up. Put them in there. We're going to move on and oh, excellent. A mausoleum. Oh, very cool. Sense of love through cemetery management. Oh, this is actually a great handoff. Thank you, friends, for helping us cross over to the next element of this. Lots of documents are institution related to love. Thank you, everybody. So keep writing them in there. We want to show you an exercise that we normally like to run when we're doing this workshop. We're not going to do it in its entirety, but we want to show it to you. Like Alina said, we can send out some of the materials afterwards. We are not allowed to send out every single image that's in this presentation just because of the copyright. We can use it for our needs. However, we do have a version that we'll send out to everybody, and that'll include this workshop as well. So normally when we're looking at this kind of workshop, we take a look at either a synagogue. Here we have the example of the Great Sephardic Synagogue in Florence, or a cemetery. This one is Palma de Mallorca in Spain. Two separate spaces in two separate communities, but places either a synagogue or a cemetery that many communities have, and learning how to interpret love languages through the actions that happen in these different places. And normally we would write it all out. Again, we'll send this over to you so you have this game to play as well. I love what everybody's writing in the chat, by the way. I encourage everybody else to take a look because it's very cool. There are very cool insights. Learning about even the books about a love-hate relationship, creating a discussion around the Star of David, the most dominant Jewish heritage symbol. Great stuff. So going back again to what you're seeing on the screen, it's a workshop that you can run with your staff or with participants for the European Days of Jewish Culture. How do you read a space and what kind of love languages can you take out of them? Now, again, I'm going to share this and then I'm going to hand it over to Liron. As we're continuing to think about how this is practical, we want to understand what are the challenges that might stand in your way of learning about different objects or teaching about them. So we're curious think of an object, building, or site that you work with. So you've already got that object or building or site in your mind. You've just spoken about it. What do you need in order to tell this love story? We've got the object. We've understood what's the story of love that's connected to it. Love, hate, maybe a physical relationship, an emotional one, or words of affirmation. What do you now need as the educators and the cultural leaders? What do you need to tell this love story? Write it in the chat because there might be things in here that not everybody's thinking about. I can give it for an example on our end when we use objects such as the ketubah when we're speaking about it, the things that we need in order to tell the love story of the ketubah from India that we saw at the very beginning when we're educating in the galleries at the museum, we need really smart questions. We oftentimes introduce something with questions, very personal questions to the learners, to the kids, or to the groups that we have in the museum. So that's what's we must have is a good sense of questions to lead the learner into it. Maybe your elements of things that you need in order to tell a love story about an object are written materials that you can send ahead of time to people to read. But again, put in the chat, what do you now need to tell this love story that we've gathered and we've understood best for your learners? And as you're thinking about that and putting it in the chat, I'm going to hand this over to Liron.
Oh, I love what's written in the chat.
Yeah.
That's a love story right there.
Wow.
So if we go back, if you remember, we started out by Lindsay asking all of us to try to think of a personal object that for us conveys love. And we want to go back to that question and revisit it. We all probably started out with our definition of what love is, and therefore we chose the object accordingly. But perhaps, let's just do this very, very quick as a poll. But if you revisit that object that you initially thought of, did your love story or meaning change over the last 50 minutes that we spent together? Maybe now you look at it from a different perspective. Maybe now knowing that there are 5 love languages, and I'm sure, according to this framework, I'm sure that there are more, but perhaps you would have chosen a different object that maybe conveys love in a language that speaks much more personally to you. Rafaela, this is beautiful. Definitely something that connects to a very personal, very family-oriented story. Storytelling is always what gives that, that personal connection cannot be, we can't ask for anything else. And really, if you could just even raise your hand, if maybe your definition of love or the love that you feel like that's conveyed through the object that you initially chose, if that had changed throughout the workshop. Because if I might connect it, the idea that there is more than one single love language is very much in the same, it's very related, it's very much related to the idea of Jewish peoplehood in the sense that just like we all have our own love languages, the one that we give and the one that we like to receive, there are also 6 pillars according to our paradigm, but there are definitely other means or different means of connection to the Jewish people. And we have the privilege of always choosing how to connect and how to love and how to convey that love to others and receive it from our loved ones. So just keep those questions in mind. And if we may sum up this workshop with our takeaways, we said that love languages are a tool for empathy, and these can be adapted to any heritage, not only Jewish. It definitely didn't start out as Jewish, but this is just the adaptation that we chose to make, that we found within this paradigm. And we all can connect with our visitors and with our learners, and with, sometimes love is an emotion that we may have trouble identifying. We just know that we feel it, but when we can articulate it, when we can really name it, now we can identify objects and buildings and sites that may otherwise feel foreign, but when we think of them as objects of love, then we can really connect with them. We can make them much more familiar to us and connect them, again, whether we are Jewish or not, whether these objects are Jewish or not. But it's just something that can allow us the empathy and the connection to whatever it is that we are working with. And again, if I may sum up the goal of today, it really wasn't about becoming an expert in Jewish cultures. It's really about asking better questions and trying to find new stories and new means of connection, not just between space, not just between Jewish people, not just between, different cultures, but ultimately just plain old humans connect with one another, not only across space, but also across time. And so if we could offer that framework for you, and you found it useful, that we really got what it is that we aspired to get. And again, we want to both thank you from the bottom of our hearts, first of all, for having us both here, and for bearing with us, and for really sharing your stories. That's always the best part of it. And again, if you wish to have this workshop as a printout, just email Lindsay at her email address, which is right here, and we would love to share our resources and the actual layout of this workshop with you, so that you may choose to, you may use and adapt to your needs and desires and
Thank
loves.
you.
Exactly. I'll finish by echoing Liron's thanks to Alina and everybody on the European Days of Jewish Culture and the AEPJ. Thanks, been lots of fun, and we hope to meet, we would love to meet everybody in peaceful times in person someday soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, dear friends and colleagues. Thank you. With your permission, I'm gonna be in control now, and because we had the breakout
Yes.
rooms, let's say that we had a break, a short break, because we are a little bit late, and I'm sure all of us are waiting for the moment already promoted on our website and media. Our keynote address today opens up with a question that is playful but also very profound. Is love a Jewish idea? Our keynote speaker, Alexis Nous, is a professor emeritus of general and comparative literature at Marseille University, with previous positions at Cardiff University and the University of Montreal. He has lectured internationally and founded key research initiatives as POEXIL and the Cardiff Research Group on the politics of translating, and is currently affiliated with the CIELAM in Marseille. I prepared a little bit of a reflection on that, but because we're very late and I'm very curious and intrigued by this question, I'm sure Mr. Nous will not give you an answer. This is not what we do in Jewish tradition necessarily, find answers, but definitely he will guide us into how to explore various questions related to this, and why not we will be enriched for sure with new ways of speaking of love to our audience this autumn. Professor Nous, do I see you? Yes. Yes, I'm so happy that you're here with us. Thank you so much. And I'm giving you control over this question. What shall we think of it?
Thanks, Alina. Could you hear me? Yeah. Many thanks for your trust and for this invitation and for the challenge it represents. Although, isn't love always a challenge? Is love a Jewish idea? I have to confess that the previous workshop from the NU Museum already gave many answers. Anyway, why do I ask the question? And why in those terms? Why an idea? Before trying to answer, from the start, I want to say that I found not only challenging but unsettling the very choice of the theme of love when since October 7, 2023, love won't be the notion which comes into mind when one thinks about the relationship between the Jewish community and the rest of the world. Talking about love when everybody seems to hate us could be perceived as provocation indeed. Furthermore, within the Jewish community, antagonistic, violent debates are raging. People don't agree on the war in Gaza, the war in Lebanon, don't agree on West Bank territories, on the causes of anti-Semitism, on the way to address the issue, and so on. Well, because of such a tense situation, it could be in the end a good thing to talk about love, not as a provocation, but as a resistance. And resistance is indeed a very Jewish idea. Now, love as a Jewish idea, why do I use the term idea? Love is a feeling, an emotion, belonging to a sensual and psychological reality, not an intellectual one. Well, I don't think it's as straightforward. First, love as an idea. What I mean is that love, as any other human feeling, is framed within cultural representations. Human feelings are certainly based on instincts, as we are animal beings, but precisely as human beings, that is, as cultural beings, beings using a mediation, which is culture, a mediation between themselves and the world, and between themselves altogether. As cultural beings, our feelings are filtered, are shaped through cultural representations. For instance, the maternal, the motherly feeling is universal, mothers all over the world. This feeling of motherhood is shared all over the world and shared with animals as well. But the sense of motherhood is linked to specific cultural settings. The understanding of the duties involved by being a mother and how those duties should be performed, such an understanding will not be the same, say, in the Western world, in Africa, or in Asia. Furthermore, and to give an example related to our Jewish experience, the sense of motherhood or of parenthood for Jews in a poor shtetl, in a rich European or American city, or in a kibbutz, it's not the same. That is motherhood or parenthood are ideas which have been understood differently according to different historical and social situations. Jewish children could stay at home or be sent away, could be raised by their parents, by other family members, or even in other families. With regard to love, as far as Western culture is concerned, love, in our common understanding, love between two persons, romantic love, doesn't appear before the medieval era. In antiquity, love between human beings is an impulse to be suspicious of. Friendship is considered a better relationship, even an ideal one. And Christianity went the same way. Love wasn't loved. The only love to be respected was the one toward God or toward gods. It's only around the 12th century that the idea of love came up at the human level. Love between human beings as a value in itself. The secular idea of love, which modernity will develop. The same way a word could have different meanings, a feeling does receive different interpretation and therefore could be experienced in different ways. Judaism is certainly not different. The idea of love in Judaism is specific, and the very Jewish idea of love does receive different meanings. It's an idea translating itself into several ideas. I receive a strong support from the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, chapter of the Fathers, which says, all love that depends on something, when the thing stops, love stops. And all love that doesn't depend on anything will never cease. What is an example of love that depended on something? Such was the love of Amnon for Tamar. And what is an example of love that didn't depend on anything? Such was the love of David and Jonathan. This not depending on something is a useful definition of love as an idea. Let's begin with the beginning. Adam and Eve, the first couple. Did Adam love Chava? And did she love him? Not a single proof of that, not a single word on that. No wonder if their children behaved badly to the point of Cain killing Abel. They didn't have an example of love at home to be inspired by. The first mention in the Bible, the first mention of love comes with Abraham in Genesis 22, in relation with Isaac. And God said, please take your son, your only one, whom you love, Asher Ahavta, Isaac, and go away to the land of Moriah and bring him up there for a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. End of quote. The one you love. I bet Abraham loved Israel, having been waiting for so long to get a child with Sarah, when he had been promised a child and many, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. He has to wait for so long. So of course he loved Isaac, but it's a very self-interested love, and a love quite limited by the mitzvah he did receive from God. Then come Isaac and Rebekah, Yitzhak and Rivka, in a very arranged marriage, organized within family bonds by Eliezer, Abraham's servant. True, Isaac is mentioned as loving Rivka, but in a very strange way. Genesis 24. And Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted for the loss of his mother. End of quote. Is Freud needed here to give an interpretation? Once again, Isaac's love is a very limited love. Here limited by the memory of his mother, Jewish mother, as you know. Then we have to wait for Genesis 22, the story of Jacob and Rachel. And Jacob loved Rachel, and he said to Laban, I will work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. But when for his wedding night, Leah was in his bed and not Rachel, he didn't discover the substitution before the morning. Love is blind, indeed, but the rest of the story shows that Jacob did willingly share his life between Rachel and Leah. Which kind of love is that? Those biblical love stories are certainly complex, and I'm not mentioning here more disturbing episodes like Noah and his daughters, Jacob and his brothers, or Yehuda and his daughter-in-law. One should also mention the relationship between David and Jonathan, and of course the erotic poem, which is Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. I do not want to be cynical. On the opposite, I think it's fair enough to say that in the Bible, love is considered as a complex issue and as a reality in life. Not an overall dimension of life, a reality within life. Love between human beings happens or not, but it is neither an ideal nor a goal, as in other spiritualities or in Western literary tradition. Love is sought after because it's a way to build a better world. I think that's a position reflected in the Talmudic text as well. I'm obliged to open a parenthesis here. By definition, Jewish thought is nourished by contradiction and oppositions, not to be resolved, but to be taken into account in an ongoing discussion. Therefore, it's quite risky to give general statements about Jewish culture, although I'm obliged to do so in a short talk like this one. In the Talmudic view, love is considered within social structure, the married couple providing a basic example. The Talmud in Yevamot connects explicitly love as found in marriage and shalom, understood as a life lived in harmony and respect. Rava Bar Ula said, one who doesn't have a wife is left without peace. As it is written, and you shall know that your tent is in peace, and you shall visit your habitation and shall miss nothing. Book of Job. This indicates that a man has peace only when he has a tent, that is, a wife. And further down, the page says, the sages taught, one who loves his wife as he loves himself, and who honors her more than himself, about him, the verse states, and you shall know that your tent is in peace. As a result of his action, there will be peace in his home, as it will be devoid of quarrel and sin. End of quote. Therefore, love brings peace. A life driven by love is what life is about, is what love is about. That is peace and harmony. The Talmud in Brachot takes a very cautious stand about the nature of love when it makes the distinction between Ahava Rabbah, abundant love, and Ahavat Olam, eternal love. The result came up with the blessings to be said before the Shema Israel, which, as you know, is repeated at night and in the morning. At night, in the context of God controlling nature and time, the blessing states Ahavat Olam, eternal love. But in the morning, in the context of creation and the gift of the Torah, the blessing goes for only an abundant love, as it, at human level, love couldn't be eternal. Another version of the same idea, a rather profane version, appears in Sanhedrin. There was a certain man who was saying about his marriage, when our love was strong, we could have slept on a bed that had the wideness of a sword. Now that our love is not that strong, a bed of 60 cubits is not sufficient for us. I'll let you appreciate the degree of irony or of truth in this declaration. And we're not talking about what the woman is feeling. God's eternal love, all right. But what could be the idea of love? Such a human idea, as we saw, limited and pragmatically oriented when applied to God. God defined by its infinity, its absoluteness. Let's remember that the Hebrew root for ahava, love, is ava, which means to give, implying an idea of dispossession rather than of possession. God, love, manifests itself in the act of giving. The Talmud in Menachot states that the proof that the Jewish people are beloved by God is that he surrounded them by the mitzvot, the concrete symbol of which being the tefillin and the mezuzah. But God choosing the Jewish people, is not that an expression of love? The answer is easy. It showed them for the sake of the whole world, of all the world nations, according to Isaiah 49, and he said, "It is too late for you to be my servant, to establish the tribe of Jacob and to bring back the besieged of Israel, but I will make you a light of nations." Or Goyim, light of nations. The chosenness of the Jewish people is intended for the nation of the world as much as for the sake of Israel. Proof of that is a distribution of lands to other people, Eretz Israel for the Jews, but Edom received its own territories. So does the people of Moab. So does the people of Ammon. So do people far from Middle East regions. My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Ki beiti beit tefillah yikra lechol ha'amim, Isaiah 56. Although many commentators restrict all peoples to the converted individuals, but we cannot open the debate now. However, we have to think about this expression of love, house of prayer for all people. However, we find in Devarim, "And you shall love the stranger, for you were a stranger in the land of Egypt." The stranger is the only one to be loved in Devarim, in the book of Devarim, because he has a specific place in the Jewish view of the world. The stranger is needed in the global human plan leading to universal peace. Peace being precisely the coexistence of all the nations, of all the cultures, the Jews and the strangers. It's what Rabbi Jonathan Sachs calls integrated diversity, a universalism born out of exchanges and translation between culture, not by the imposition of one unique model. This could be another name for love, considered in a global perspective. In that sense, love is also a political idea. With regard to divine love, it should be noted that love doesn't appear in the so-called 13 attributes of mercy that we recite many times during the high holidays, a kind of self-definition that God gave to Moses after the episode of the golden calf, when God threatened to destroy the people of Israel rather than forgive them. The 13 attributes are pronounced as a way of praying for mercy and forgiveness. Hashem, Hashem, El Rachum, Ve'Ranun, Harei Rapayim, Ve'Had Chesed, Ve'emet. Hashem, Hashem, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the thousandth generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and cleansing. Love is not part of the list of God's attributes. God didn't choose to present himself as a loving God, although in a famous verse in Yirmiyahu, the prophet says, "With everlasting love have I loved you, therefore I have drawn you to me with loving kindness. Ve'avat olam ahavticha, al ken meshirtir chesed." The verse is very precise. I loved you, but what you did receive was chesed. Chesed, usually translated as loving kindness, describes the way God acts toward the human beings with generosity, loyalty, gentleness. A crucial dialectics between love and chesed. Chesed being what we perceive of God's love, which otherwise remains beyond cognition and perception. The best example of God love chesed being the gift of the Torah. A Midrash Tanhuma on Sota, links explicitly the Torah, the giving of the Torah, and the notion of chesed. Deeds of loving kindness, of chesed, are mentioned at the beginning of the Torah, in its middle, and at its conclusion. At the beginning, when God gave clothes to Adam and Eve. At the middle, when he visits an ailing Avram, and at the end, when he buries Moshe in the valley of Moab. I should, however, mention one instance of God acting in pure love, an emotional love, the one of a Yiddish mama, of a Jewish mother. Last week, Parasha listed the annual holidays, the last of them being Shmini Atzeret, a Yom Tov without ritual, almost without content, if not marking the end of Sukkot. About it, a Midrash explained that it is as if God told the Jewish people, we have been together for a week in the intimacy of the Sukkah, so please say one more day for the sake of being together. Isn't that moving? Let's now tackle the most often quoted statement when it comes to love in Judaism. Before that, I wish to make a point. I don't want my talk to be understood as belonging to the debate Christianism is about love versus Judaism is about law and commandments. The Christian God is gentle, the Jewish God is harsh. It has been argued that the distinction coming from Christian voices has been internalized by Jews in order to precisely distinguish themselves from Christians. We are talking about ideology here. Enough to say that in the Jewish idea of love, the distinction doesn't hold, since the love for God is expressed through the practice of the mitzvot. Love is not separated from law, as illustrated in the first of these two notable statements we will assess now, two commandments, one, love God, and two, love your neighbor. By the way, let's note that there is a specific idea here that love could be a commandment, as opposed to the romantic idea of love as a free impulse. One, love God. You shall love your God. As we know, the sentence from Devarim is part of the quintessential Shema Israel. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך וכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your means. All right, but how could I love a faceless, bodiless, imageless entity? I could love a landscape or a glass of wine, but at least they have an appearance. Could I love without an image toward which project my love? The answer is in the interpretation of the verse. Rashi gives a very pragmatic and somehow coldly illustration, a negative interpretation of this love. There are, he comments, two ways of serving God, out of love and out of fear. The first one is better since it doesn't depend on the task, while for serving out of fear, if the task is too heavy, the servant will go away. Heart, soul, and means are symbolizing such service out of love. In other terms, God is here putting forward his self-interest when God is talking about love. As interesting is Rashi's interpretation of the following verse. דהו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך. And this word which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. And Rashi asked, what is this love referred in the previous verse? And he answered, it is that these words, advarim, are the mitzvot. They shall be upon your heart. And through this you will come to recognize the Holy One. According to Rashi, the required love to have in one's heart is nothing else than the mitzvot, which, like duties, should be integrated in one's heart. On this statement, the Talmud in Brachot explained that with all your heart implies that such love should be expressed with both the human being's good inclination and the human being bad inclination. Rashi confirms it in connection with the two letters, the two bet in Levavra, when one was enough. To love with your bad inclination. We are very far from a romantic definition of love as pure goodness, but close to a correct consideration of psychological realities which Freud, again, won't deny. Love is not always pure, but in the case of love for God, even the impurity could be redirected toward a divine purpose. If the Talmud does establish a hierarchy between the mitzvot performed out of love and the one out of fear, it does admit both. It states in Sota, what difference is there between one who performs mitzvot out of love and one who performs mitzvot out of fear? Rabbi Shimon ben Eliezer say, greater is the one who performs mitzvot out of love than the one who performs mitzvot out of fear. As with regard to this one who acts out of fear, his merits endure for 1,000 generations. But with regard to that one who serves God out of love, his merits endure for 2,000 generations. But both are merited. And the same page in the Talmud goes on by mentioning two students of Rava, named by him sages, but one serving God out of love and the other one out of fear. Finally, the Talmud in Yoma proposes another understanding of the commandment of love. To love God means to have his name beloved by studying and behaving honestly in matter of business. So last point implying that love with regard to God did not only concern God and the individual, but would include other people as well. Loving God, in other terms, is not strictly a personal matter. Second famous statement about love, love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18. The central principle, Klal Gadol, of the whole Torah, according to Rabbi Akiva, and the essence of Torah, according to Hillel, in a different version, what's hateful to you, do not do to another. But loving oneself cannot be love in the common understanding, because it would amount at pure narcissism. It has to be interpreted as taking care of other people as one takes care of oneself, as one takes care of oneself. That is what the exact wording states. You shall neither take revenge from, nor bear resentment against a member of your people. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Ve'afta lereacha, lereacha, and not at reacha, the normal grammatical construction. This lamed before reacha means one should understand this love directed toward the neighbor, not at him or her. Not to love your neighbor, but to love toward your neighbor. Not directly him or her, but what surrounds him or her. His or her belongings, according to some interpretation. What is good for him, according to Ibn Ezra. His or her reputation and his or her money, according to Maimonides. Now, the statement is only the second half of the verse. The first half says, you shall not take vengeance or bear resentment against member of your people. And this commandment ends in the three previous verses, a list of commandments aiming at preserving justice and welfare within the community. Therefore, the love expressed in verse 18 is connected to a social order rather than being an emotional one. To love another one, like oneself, and to express it through concrete action. There is an example in the book of Samuel, where it said, Jonathan and David made a pact because Jonathan loved him as himself, like his own soul. Jonathan, son of Saul, will protect David against Saul's anger. I say that love your neighbor commandment aimed at preserving justice and welfare within the community, but a few verses further in the same chapter 19, one finds The strangers who reside with you shall be to you as your citizen. You shall love each one as yourself, for you were a stranger in the land of Egypt. Love the stranger as yourself because you have been yourself strangers. Jews and non-Jews here are united in this commandment of love, understood as a concern for social order, for peace. Now, does this commandment apply to the enemies of the Jewish people? What is the extension of the commandment? The whole humanity? The Midrash answers, you shall not take revenge and you shall not bear resentment against the children of your people, but you may take revenge of and bear a resentment against the ones who worship idols. That is, thus being outside the covenant and even against the covenant. The love process, which illustrate a peace process, those are simply not concerned. One doesn't have to love them since they are not included in the peace process. I tried to trace back the evolution of the Jewish idea of love, rather the Jewish ideas of love, during the long period from antiquity to the Middle Age, when the Jewish way of thinking has been elaborated and expanded. It should be necessary to explore how this idea of love has transformed itself later on through theological texts, as well as in Jewish philosophy, Jewish literature, and popular culture. No time for that today. I shall simply say that after this too brief overview, it seems that in the Jewish idea of love, the term is more understood and used as a verb than as a noun, loving being more significant than love. However, I would like to conclude this talk with Leonard Cohen as an example of a contemporary Jewish take on love. Jewish because Leonard Cohen has always claimed that all his inspiration came from his Jewishness and that he was writing and composing and singing out of his tradition. Why Leonard Cohen on love? Because many of his poems and songs deal with the theme of love. Let's remember that its third album, released in 1971, was entitled Songs of Love and Hate. Two remarks. The love theme is mostly played on the side of unhappy love, ending love stories, separation, unfulfilled desires, and so on. And secondly, like in Shir HaShirim, the line is very thin between the expression of love for somebody and the expression of love for God. My final example, the song Dance Me to the End of Love, with its klezmerish tune. About the line, Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin, Leonard Cohen said that the inspiration for the song came from the knowledge that in the Nazi camps there were small orchestra playing classical music while people were sent to the gas chambers. Hence, the burning violin. Love in the death camps? Love for who? The whole psychological climate was one of survival. Still, we know of many examples where love was certainly a motivating factor, a parent sacrificing himself or herself to save a child, somebody sharing a piece of bread to help somebody else to go on just another day. What those examples are showing is that if love was a motivating factor, it was so in order to defend life, the right of life to exist in a kingdom of death. And I believe that if there is a Jewish idea of love, it stands in this connection between love and life. Love is not essentially about two human beings, or between human beings and God, or between God and the Jewish people. Love is most and foremost both an expression and a symbol of life, and love between human beings and God, love between God and the Jewish people are manifestation of what one could now call love of life. In a Jewish perspective, love is love of life. It doesn't exist in itself. It is secondary to life. It reveals life. In the Talmud, to encourage a student to enjoy life, to eat and drink, Shmuel told his students, and it was Rav Yehuda, this world should be like a wedding feast, a celebration of love to mean a celebration of life. I said at the beginning that there was not any kind of love story happening between Adam and Eve. However, the fifth of the Sheva Brachot, the seven blessings said during the Jewish wedding ceremony and after the festive meals during the next 7 days, the fifth bracha refers to Adam and Eve. Grant abundant joy to these loving companions, Reim Ahuvim, as you granted joys to your created beings in the garden of old. Blessed are you, Lord, who grant joy to the groom and bride. Baruch atah Hashem, v'sameach chatan v'kala. The groom and bride are presented as Reim Ahuvim. Reim, the plural of Reah, as in Ve'ahavta le'reacha, love your neighbor. Those two persons in love are referred to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That is the source of human life, which Adam and Eve are the symbols of. Not symbols of love, but symbols of life. That means love is in direct connection to life. Furthermore, the following blessing, the sixth blessing, blesses the one who created joy and happiness, groom and bride, gladness, jubilation, cheer and delight, love, friendship, brotherhood, peace and fellowship. Love as a creation. Love is a divine creation offered to human beings in order to celebrate life. The idea of love is not a value in itself, but one of the diverse paths human beings could take in order to sanctify life. In Shir HaShirim 8, the verse say, Ki aza kamavet ahava. Love is as strong as death. And not as often and wrongly quoted, love is stronger than death. A most surprising statement. What does love have to do with death? If the verse would have been, love is stronger than death, there would be a kind of equivalence. But the verse says, Ki azar kemavet ahava. Love is as strong as death, which states not an equivalence, but an analogy. First interpretation, death is forever, so is love. Second interpretation, death doesn't end love. In the Talmud, characters could interact with their beloved deceased ones, a recurrent theme in Yiddish folklore as well. We know that in our life. Love continues after the death of the beloved ones. Why? Because love is bound to life. To borrow a term from the science of schmatas, love is a lining of life, or if you will, it's a symbol against all odds. It's an idea, but in Judaism, ideas are as strong as death. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. We urgently feel the desire to clap our hands as in a conference room. Thank you so much for this. And I don't know how you evaluate the reactions of your viewers or attendants or students, but we felt the need here to debate. There were sparks of ideas, and we smiled. You make us smile, but at the same time, we all said, "Oh, this is beautiful. This is nice." So, Mr. and Professor News, thank you so much for this. I can't end this session without offering the floor to anybody who wants to address something. I don't know if questions at this point will, or clarifying questions, but if anybody feels the need to just let out a question that will remain and answer through another question to this question that was launched today, please. This is the time. If anybody wants to say anything, yes, no. Maybe not. Maybe next time, definitely I will want to see the recording again. And Leila, would you like to say something? Okay. Please.
Hello, everybody. It was very interesting, and I really appreciate the last session. Thank you so much. And I decided to reply because I'm planning for one of my activities will be connecting with Songs of Solomon, because a few months ago in Tbilisi, I'm from Georgia, Georgia National Museum, but also I'm teaching at Tbilisi State University, teaching in the Hebraistic faculty, the Jewish studies. And in the university was published first anthology of Georgian translation of Song of Solomon, and first illustrated book, very good edition. And I made article about this book and lecture. And a famous Georgian artist made special illustration and works dedicated to songs. And I'm planning as one of activities to present exhibition of these works, and also give a lecture connected with this anthology. And so for me, it was very nice to hear your absolutely great lecture, amazing lecture. Thank you so much. It's inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leila.
If I may here say a word, a very interesting aspect in our thinking should be the way the people love us. I happen to know a bit about, Georgian history. I went there several times, and the way that the Georgian people did deal with the Jewish community is unique.
Yes.
And it's an example, whereas other communities, other national communities, did deal in a very bad ways and very cruel ways with. So I think that one aspect of law should be also the relationship between Jewish communities and within the framework of the national communities. And that could be also
Yes.
a very interesting line of investigation and very useful to know. For example, before I went to Georgia, I didn't know how the Georgian people did react to the Jews, and it was for me a surprise. And I think it's a very interesting aspect of love, the relationship between Jewish communities and the national communities.
Yeah, because it's really a very exceptional relationship that was based, and it was even celebrated twice, this 26th century anniversary of this special relationship between Jews and Georgians, and it's really unique aspect. And thank you for this recommendation.
No, and the question being, why did the Georgian people love the Jews?
I think
other people didn't
I have my theory, because if you know, I don't know how familiar you are with the Jewish history in Georgia, but a lot of Georgia is one of the earliest Christian country, and since this for Georgians, Christianity is very important aspect. And the main reliquaries of Christianity are connected with Jews, the earliest history. For example, the history of Christ's shrine, Holy Shrine. Holy Shrine is buried with Jewish women, Sidonia. And it's the holiest place. Nobody knows where is the cemetery, but the holiest place, and the main cathedral in Tzcheta, it's the first
capital, earliest capital of Georgia is connected with Jewish women. And as well, and Christianity of Georgia is also connected with Jews, because Saint Nina Cappadocian came from Jerusalem in looking for a holy shrine, and to advertise ideas of Christianity, help Jewish community, Jewish people who lived in those territory and who used to know Aramaic language. And again, it's opinion of main scientists that first converted Christians in Georgia were Jews. So it was very important. I think it's not only my opinion, it's opinion of many scientists that this special relationship, of course, was based and during all the history, Jewish people share with Georgians all the difficulties, all the wars, and they stood always together. And even the most famous Georgian kings, medieval king David Builder, mentioned that he is descendant of Bible kings David and Solomon. So in royal blood, it's like a legend, but in Georgian royal blood, there's also some Jewish blood. Maybe
Thank you.
it's the reason.
Thank you so much. That was quite an introduction to coming from love, or basing it in love, to the Georgian history. We're looking forward to finding out more through your exhibition and other events that you will be able to organize. We are very aware and we are very familiar with what you do. Kol hakavod there in Georgia. But going back to Professor News, thank you again so much for this intervention. It was a wonderful way to isolate a little bit this a topic, because there were mentions in the forum, and some people, everybody loves the theme, but some of the people mentioned that this may be a trigger. So hopefully your intervention today gave them some avenues of reflection, how to again isolate this topic from the political context, but at the same time to connect it to the political context, if that is possible, as absurd as it sounds. Truly inspiring, and I hope people engaged in all the wonderful thoughts and this navigation between I don't know, philosophical context to whatever this idea of love means in Judaism. Professor News and dear colleagues, with your permission, we're now going to start a new session of Q&A as breakout rooms, because we only have left 7 minutes, and it would be a pity to engage in serious conversation and give you no feedback or no relevant answers. Let's hope tomorrow, and I'm positive because I gave such a great amount of time for tomorrow. We do have a set of questions that we already gathered on the forums, and everybody's aware, all our breakout rooms leaders are aware of these issues raised, and we're going to be happy to answer them or talk them through or talk you through. But at this point, I want to thank everybody for joining today. And I'm going to repeat this tomorrow, but if you enjoyed it, send words of appreciation as a form of love to the whole AEPJ team. If something was wrong, address it to Victor. He's been very, very timid today. But he's here with us, so he's our man for bringing spirits up, but also managing all the, as we say, I can't say mierda, can I? all the other things that are happening. Thank you, Anu. Thank you, Lindsay, Leron, and thank you, everybody else, Professor News. It was such an honor. And we are looking forward to seeing you all here tomorrow. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye, until tomorrow.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you.